Yeah, that's smooth, encouraging, and challenging tones and tunes of Andre de Lange, a South African born Swede. We love Andre's music on this channel. If you've just joined us, thank you very, very much for making time for us this evening. My name is Theophilus van Rensburg Linster, and if you found your way here, either via LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, we want to thank you for making time. We have a brief conversation this evening, but it's a meaningful one all the same because it's concerning young people in South Africa. Young people who need our encouragement, our support, our upliftment, our energy, our optimism, and above all, our sensitivity to the needs they have in order for them to understand there's a lot more to life than what they see and what they experience. And some of the things they see and experience are quite hard and difficult, and it may make for a great deal of depression and sadness. We are here in a very practical way to try and make a difference. This broadcast is intended to bring awareness to the struggles young people have and opportunities that exist for them to find meaningful employment in the agriculture space. We have some special guests this evening, some news, and we'll be back in a jiffy. Okay, there we are, and you can see all of us on the screen if you're seeing a wonderful screen there with myself, Theophilus van Rensburg. I'm sitting in Stockholm. Terence Martin is sitting in Cape Town in South Africa. And Daniel has got a lovely surname this evening. His surname is Mush Love. Um,
Not much, it's mush.
much love, and there's a reason for that. Daniel,
Yes.
before you introduce yourself, we are showing this a fantastic image right now on the live broadcast. Um, but I have to say, Daniel, and I'm going to just change a little bit this the sort of layout here so folks can maybe see you a little bit better. Let's see. Yeah. Well, let me just change that. Let me take this and hide this image here just
Hmm.
for a moment. I do it there.
Okay.
We'll do it like that, and we just remove that for a second there. There
Okay.
you are. Um, Daniel,
Yes, Theo.
um, mush love. Why, why, why mush love?
Yes. Much love because we love mushrooms.
Yeah,
So I've shortened that mushroom, and then we love mushrooms.
yeah.
So in short, then that's much love, and that's actually what I'm trying to push out there. Currently, to brand,
Mm,
whatever we're doing as much love,
yes.
because whatever that we're doing, as you've seen.
Oh man. Yeah, it is so hard. We've had real difficulty this evening with internet um, dropping. Uh, and we'll get Daniel back. Terry, you had a little brief discussion with him there before we all started. We'll see as soon as Daniel's back. We'll loop him back into the conversation.
Okay.
Um, and so it's a fascinating work that he's busy with. Mushrooms. What goes through your mind when you think about mushrooms?
Well, I thought maybe you were suffering from a lisp, saying
Yes,
mustard.
yes,
But I figured as much as mushrooms.
yeah,
And what an interesting crop to be cultivating in
yeah,
that part of the country.
yes.
I wouldn't even know. Is it, is that a natural phenomenon there, or is it something that
That,
is imported?
well, you're going to need to hold those questions for him because I think that's going to be
Okay.
very, very valuable.
Okay.
But your surprise just, is the same as mine. Now, I think I do know a little bit about agriculture, but I am constantly, just like you, surprised at what folks are busy with down on the ground, and what wonderful things that they are doing in the space of agriculture, not only entrepreneurially, but certainly also in terms of subsistence for them, subsistence farming. But then also, and this is something he is particularly passionate about, is training and development of young people into this space. But it is a rarity, wouldn't you say? I mean, it's not often that we hear about mushroom farming and directly connected to training for young people in the agri
Well,
space.
that's one, and two, that far north
Yeah,
is quite interesting because it's very hot out that way.
yeah,
You know, um, so very interesting.
yeah,
Wonderful just to hear from him on that,
yeah,
and what started, what ignited it.
yeah.
And how does he come? How did he get into the space of the reindustrialization
Mm,
idea
yeah,
in these communities? I would love to pick his brain on that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, ignorance is a curable disease, so will be cured
Oh,
of
absolutely.
this sooner than later. And I think one of the issues that you raise is that we are aware of the fact that, or at least we think that certain crops are not normally expected or prevalent in certain conditions, as far as we know. But a great deal of it may be clarified if somebody who's working with it, like Daniel, clarifies it for us, the sort of explaining it in the simplest of terms. But do you think that some of these ignorances that we have, that they don't really drive us to the right place? We is are we lax, or is there some laziness that creep in, that does not push us to find out more? We lack curiosity because, or is it so that we lack reasonable curiosity that would elevate our knowledge levels, especially if
Well, I
it's
think it's yep,
especially if
yep.
it's
I
something,
think
Terry,
it's
that is on the face or on the surface for us
right.
unusual.
Well, I think on the one hand it's apathy. On the other hand, we say, well, we're in Southern Africa. You know, what is there to get excited about? So, I mean, that probably falls into the area of apathy. But
Mm,
I think curiosity is a big one. That's why I always kid on radio and elsewhere. I have a couple of curiosity capsules in my pocket
mm,
because I think some people, a lot of folk that I come into contact with, need to pop a couple of them into their mouths so that they can, the curiosity could ignite.
mm,
If you look at some of the difficulties in our country in terms of youth empowerment and unemployment from 25 to 34,
yeah.
and then 18 to 24, 18 to 23.
Oh yes,
I
that
mean,
group
we've
is.
got two different sets of intense problem,
Oh yeah.
which ranks very high in terms of what world standards are, where world standards are sitting.
Mm,
So it's not an overstatement to say we are heading for, we are right inside of some big trouble if we don't sit up and listen, and become curious about mush love,
yeah.
about mushrooms.
Yeah.
It's food.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And
Uh,
I don't know in your part of the world, but here, they spring up overnight, even in the city. You could
no,
have in your garden, they could, but no, they are of the dangerous variety.
there is that as well. But it is. But you feel the same, that some of uh, the curiosity that's supposed to be there is not there.
That's right. That's right.
It,
And I think unless you get driven into a corner and crisis hits,
mm,
one tends not to become curious about now. How did we get here?
mm,
Why in the world didn't I think about that?
mm,
Mushrooms,
sure.
you know, as an African, I'm almost tempted to say delicacy, Um,
Goodness, I hope Daniel can come in here quickly so we can have these questions answered.
yeah,
It's
yeah. I mean,
it's mushing in my head now. Just, let's just see here. I'm
uh,
going to try and see if we can connect with him in a different way. So we put that over there. So we're just juggling, folks. So if you are with us, we're
yep.
trying to get Daniel back here. Terence Martin is joining me from Cape Town. It looks very weird, I think, as you look at us, trying to make sense of it all. That's me. I'm trying to. We live, and I'm fiddling with the live broadcast, and folks have probably seen different parts of my nose. But um, Terry and I are talking about just this need for us to have heightened curiosity about what people are doing, and that curiosity may lead to some very, very insightful conclusions about the wonderful things that folks are doing. Um, and so, you wanted to add something there, Terry?
I'm just wondering, we're hearing a lot more talk about food security. It's not a recent thing in Southern Africa.
No, it's not.
It's been coming on a long while, and we're sitting in some very precarious situations at the moment with all the dialogue about where South Africa postures itself on the world scene
Mm,
in relation to, some of the big powers on the globe.
yeah,
So food security is a big one. It's becoming a bigger and bigger one, and we know that we export such a lot of stuff there. I mean, billions
yeah,
of South African rands are getting exported out of the country, and South Africa is one of those spaces that can feed its people down to the last hungry mouth,
yeah,
a hungry tummy.
yeah,
But there are huge problems just tied to that thought already.
yeah. I
Because
hear you.
why is it not happening?
Yeah,
And Daniel's back.
yeah.
Great.
Daniel, it's a good thing you've just made it back because we have some serious questions here. Terry, you want to fire that first question there?
Well, Daniel, I've been wondering. My curiosity has been piqued already because I'm saying mushrooms in a northern part of the country, where you about as far north, well, Sanin, as far north as one goes before you hit
No,
the
I'm not.
border.
Yeah, not Zanin. So I'm in northwest. In
Northwest.
So,
Yeah,
Okay.
just
so that's
yes,
about
yeah,
yeah. That's
But-
to the east of Mafeking, not too far from there, really.
yes, not
okay.
far from
Yeah,
Mahikeng.
But
Yes,
also
yeah,
very, very hot, very warm, right?
yes. It's
Y-
quite warm. Sometimes it's
Yep.
quite hot. Yeah, yes,
And
yeah,
talk to us about, how did this whole idea emanate in your situation? Was it something you
yes.
stumbled on, or
No, um, so I was in Malawi in 2018. When I was in Malawi, we have an organization there called Sustainable Living Solutions, which we trained people on permaculture and organic farming. And whilst I was there, a couple from Oklahoma came, Dr. Shitaki Mama and her husband. They came there to come and train us on mushroom farming. It was a week's training, but also the guy that was hosting me, my associate there, was growing oyster mushrooms and supplying to the hotels around. But I must say that I didn't really attend the training quite intensively because we were organizing the whole thing and I was moving around. So I came back on end of 2018, 2019. Then I started doing my own research, into mushroom farming. The whole year of 2019, started documenting, showing my vision, where I want to see this project going and everything else. And then in 2020, then we wanted to launch the program, and then COVID hit us. And then only in 2022, that's when we started to do the program. And my interest actually started at that time when I was in Malawi. So the whole story starts in Malawi with the people from America. And yeah, here we are today.
so the mushrooms that you cultivate there now, are they in indigenous to the region, or is it introduced into the region as almost in an exotic kind of fashion?
No, okay. The oyster mushrooms are grown everywhere else, throughout the country, because all the people that are on our program, they are all over the country, in all the provinces, in all these, in many of the rural areas. So because we grow them indoors, so we can grow them anywhere, because we create that environment for them to grow. So yeah,
Wow.
so
Wow.
yes, yeah.
So
Yes.
does the whole process, if you say indoor, does it start off indoor and then go outdoor, or is everything indoors?
No, it starts outside, because then we have to prepare, the growing medium outside, and then we'll put them, inside, either the growing bags or the buckets, and then we put them inside the growing rooms. And there's different stages there, where we first go into the incubation for some time, and then from there into the fruiting space. So we'll first start in the incubation room, which is dark space, and then from there, then we'll move down the stuff now to the fruiting rooms, where now there, we need different kind of interventions there, like your lighting, your humidity, your air fresh there. Um, we call it fresh air exchange, FAE. And then, yeah, also there we then do the humidification there, and then we create that environment for those mushrooms to grow.
And you've done that over a window of 2 years. So from starting in 2022 to
Yes, we started in
2024.
20. Yes, we started in 2022 to date. But I must say that, throughout that whole program, till to date, we have been focusing more on capacity building, to really bring in quite a lot of people onto the program, so that, when we start now going fully commercially now this year, then at least now we have got the capacity, to support the market that we have acquired, and that we are continuing to acquire. In fact, even in this farm where I am now, it's to come and create that environment for us to grow the mushrooms, because they also need to buy mushrooms from us. That is why I'm on the site visit, and that is why, the network in this farm is very bad. That is why we're sitting outside. But yeah, so yeah, so then the most thing that we've been doing was to build capacity, as we've got all these people, and now we're putting out in the next month or two, now the growing rooms, where we're converting these containers into mushroom farms, and then setting them out, where we'll be then rolling those out. But I'm also now also acquiring a farm, where then I'm also going to put a production facility there with the processing unit as well, and an academy as well, where we'll be training people to grow these
Wonderful.
mushrooms. Yes, yeah,
Wonderful. Wow.
yes, yes, yeah,
See, I like what Daniel just mentioned now. He's not started with an upside down pyramid. He started with a right side up pyramid.
Mm.
hmm
And
yeah,
I know a lot of that is based upon certain givens too.
Yeah.
Sometimes we started upside down because we're so excited. We upscale way before we've got the capacity to empower, right?
yes,
Because we're
yes,
so
yeah,
excited. What I
yes,
hear here, Theo, is a very just the opposite of that.
It's
A
wonderful.
focus we've started since 2022, but we're building. Focus is on building capacity, which is so
yeah,
important. And I think it's a both and. It's a tender balance, isn't it, Daniel?
yes, it is.
You know,
Mm,
it's a
yeah,
battle keeping that balance, right?
yes, it is. Yeah, because what we see that is that, like you say, sometimes we start planting, and then the next thing we're sitting with our crops, and then the next thing, things go to waste. That mindset of saying we want to keep to promote food security, then we now promote food losses, and all of that. So what we did is that, we started there to say, okay, where are these products going to go, and how are we developing this, and also we look into the whole systems into place, like where we do, the soft skills, you know, people, there's a challenge of people working together. So we teach people before we teach them on mushroom farming, on alignment. We take them through alignment processes, alignment which is driven by love. That is why you see, we're talking about much love. And then where we
Okay, that line has dropped again.
Mm.
See, I like what he's mentioning now.
Yeah,
Um,
he's got
there's the community element.
sure.
The love element. I
Mm.
wish I could hear more on that.
Yeah, he
Uh,
is on that. I will expect when he comes back that it's going to be very very insightful to hear that. I think there's a distinct, it's quite distinctive of his approach. So it's not just a word that he's throwing around, and it has a strong notion of community
hmm.
driven. I'll tell you what, there's such a lot of funding that these guys should be receiving. Both, um,
Is there some that's come through from the
yeah,
international community or
I'm not so,
locally?
I'm thinking more locally,
Mm, mm.
so I'm not so sure.
And a question that I do want to ask him is how I'm thinking the word endemic is not the right word.
Mm.
How endemic is mushroom consumption in the country? Because if they're doing it all across the country in different centers,
Yeah,
then I'm suspecting that people are a lot more aware, that this is actually an edible product.
sure.
you know, I mean, our exposure in the Cape has basically been to the more dangerous variety. You don't eat that. As
Yeah,
kids, we used to mess around with it.
yeah, and I do think that that again has got to do with a little bit of ignorance, for all of us. That's
Sure, sure.
yeah,
But that's why I thought, let's if we don't know, let's find out what we don't know,
yeah,
so we can find out what we do know.
yeah.
Um, let's hope he comes back in it.
Yeah, let's let us hope. For those of you who are joining us, we are live now from Stockholm. Myself and Terence Martin is on the line. We've just lost Daniel Motshwane, who's sitting some 45, 50 kilometers, maybe a little bit more, east from a place called Mafeking. It's now called Mahikeng, Mahikeng. We did some incredible work in that region many, many years ago. A little place called Desaneng, under the grand leadership of a very close friend of Learning Academy Worldwide and myself. It is the chief Mokakuludi Masibe, great man who has a real heart for people. And so that's in that region. That's where Daniel is. So it's not too far from the Botswana border, about 100 kilometers from the Botswana border. So it's in that region. And Terry, you were absolutely right earlier when talk about levels of aridity and
Mm,
high temperatures and so on.
mm,
But the sense of community, I'm sure, is the kind of thing that we'll hear from Daniel in terms of how they have shaped their work around the needs that they see around them in the community. Now, of course, you need good business models, and we've talked quite extensively on this broadcast about um, business models that must
mm,
be able to um, deal with the basic needs of running um, a reasonably viable operation, and that places a big demand on your not just on access to capital, but also on a sustainable sort of model. Um, but we've always, I think, what we've stumbled on in recent times is the likes of Daniel, is that there are folks who are doing incredible work in the space of leveraging community capacities, community strength, um, to just get this thing off the ground. And then, of course, there's training. It's always good to have this kind of training from the outside in. And I think he alluded to some experience that he had in that space.
mm,
And so as soon
mm.
as Daniel's back, we will loop him in again. But we had good conversations there, Terry, about what the needs are that he sees. And you were suggesting that he's got the right side up. What's the wrong side? Yeah. What was the
Oh,
opposite?
when you turn the pyramid upside down and you've got the
Yeah.
point hitting the ground, because you just got one or two people on the ground and you are upscaling far too quickly.
Yeah.
It's really what coaching and or discipling is all about.
Mm.
Get the base solid,
Mm.
you know. Often our base is not solid
Mm.
and we're erecting the superstructure and give it 3, 5, 10 years,
Mm.
the thing just crumbles because the base is shot. It's
Yeah.
like what we're doing in education, wrong way around. We focusing on matriculant results versus building the base. Get the base sorted out, you know, and sustain as far as you need to, uh, the superstructure until that rollout from the base can go. So I'm just using that as an example because I think often we're so excited with projects we have, and we're not putting good thought into it. I mean, yeah, and I think this is where you've really developed some good skill in asking the hard questions there.
Yeah,
In terms of
it's still there's still a long way to go, but you're absolutely right. And even in our own situation within Learning Academy Worldwide's work within the Southern Cape in two places, Harlem, close to the Eastern Cape border, and George, um, we've learned a lot of lessons, hard lessons, sometimes over this 6 year window now. And I have to say we are beginning, but we are getting sharper at it. Daniel is back. I can feel it in my nuggets. I suppose some folks are saying he must be hungry that he's talking about nuggets.
I hope
uh,
he's not part of Zama Zama. He's getting the nuggets out of crap.
Yeah.
so
Okay.
Daniel, good,
Oh, glad to have you
good to
back,
have you
Daniel.
back.
There you go, sir.
Terry was suggesting here, Daniel, that it was so good to hear the commitment that you have to community. That's important for you, right? Taking the community alongside with you.
Yes.
Mm.
That's
Sure.
why the word
Yeah.
love features in your your selling line. You know,
Yeah. Sure.
not just love for
Yeah. That's
mushrooms. I hope.
okay. When you look at our problem statement, which is that the problem that we're trying to solve with the whole program or with the whole this mass love that we out doing is that we experience inequality gaps, that then creates or leads to our society going through social ills, environmental, mental, psychological, economical, all of those ills that then creates an environment where Africans then accept poverty as a way of life. So
Mm.
we are now we are aligned with our problem statement and the solution that we're driving. It's linked to UNSDG number 5, which talks about gender equality, and everything else that we're doing there. Then it's driven by love, and that's where now we brought on these communities to come and work with them, to grow together in this industry, because the mushroom industry is quite massive. I mean, one of the stats shows that the whole fungi industry is valued at $54.57 trillion. So you can see it's a massive industry that can transform communities in a massive way. But then we need to lay a very good foundation. That is why over these 3 years we've not been focusing on making money and growing and making, so we've been more focusing there on the ground to build a solid foundation.
Wow. Uh, when I listen to figures like that, my question is: so people are probably more aware of that mushrooms are edible than, in my mind, than I think. Would that be true, Daniel?
Yes, people are, but there's still a lot of education that needs to go out,
Okay.
because we've got different types of mushrooms. I mean, we've got edible or culinary mushrooms, we've got poisonous mushrooms. There are medicinal mushrooms, there are psychedelic mushrooms. So there's a wide range. There's over 100 species of mushrooms,
Wow.
that are out there, that people need to know about. So people know most of those mushrooms that see on the shelves and everything else. And then even with the oyster mushrooms themselves, even though they are the second largest grown mushrooms in the world, we still need to teach people about these oyster mushrooms, and also how they can assist, or also supplement a lot of health that is going into the people's systems, because they have quite a lot of health benefits. So there's a lot that needs to education that needs to go out there. Yeah. So that is why we even partnered with one company in Malaysia, where we also building now an online university, you can call it that way, where we're going to teach people about mycology, and then different type. I've partnered with great mycologists here in South Africa that have done massive projects, and so we want to really drive that education and commercialization of mushrooms, throughout South Africa and the continent, of course.
Wow. I think the
Yeah.
just the fact of mushrooms gets people's ears, you know, peaking. I mean,
Mm.
I am so curious about it because I'm wondering if this gastronomic tidbit, how was that part of early African South African culture in rural communities? How
No,
far
no, no.
back?
Uh-huh. Yeah, you see, this is something that is quite new, within our communities,
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
because our communities don't consume even the known mushrooms, you find in our communities there's few people that they see them as something that is, for a certain type of people,
I
and then
understand.
so that's why now we're bringing in that, that education, that awareness, also the commercial side, and the health side, the social side, because we're promoting social cohesion with this whole thing. Marina, the
Well, it
cable
makes it even
switch.
more fascinating,
It
Daniel. It
really
really,
does.
for me,
Yes.
makes it more fascinating because again, I thought that maybe this has been there all the time, and it's been eaten widely. And you say no, it's actually the other way.
I
But
think.
I think
Yes.
that makes it fantastic.
Mm,
If you see where you
Yes.
guys have come over a 2 year window, that's what
mm,
Mm.
fascinates me. Over a
Yeah.
2 year window
No.
where you are at,
Yeah.
and
Almost
I
three
understand you're
years.
building the
Almost 3 years.
base.
Yes.
Yeah, you're
Yes.
building capacity. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this is exciting
Yeah.
stuff, man.
Yes. Yeah.
Exciting stuff.
and I think
And locally, what recognition is there from government in terms of what you guys are doing? Any
Mm-hmm.
any
Yes.
initiatives coming from that end?
Well, right now that is happening. Well, initially when we, no, I mean my cable for charging the, sorry. Yeah. So initially when we started, my drive was that I don't need government to be involved in this whole thing initially for this 2.5 to 3 years. The reason being that I wanted to build traction, and also to get that trust, within communities and all the stakeholders that I'll bring in. So now government is aware of what we're doing, because now I've been covered in a number of initiatives. I think even next week we will be in one of the Gauteng Department of Agriculture newsletter, and I've been on radio stations and some magazines and all of that. So now the word is out there, where now government is saying, they're coming on board, to come and work with us, and also with the universities as well. I mean, this past week I was at University of Johannesburg, where they need to work with us, and to partner with us. And when I started with the University of Northwest, and then I went to UNISA. So at the initial stages, I wanted to bring in the institutions, and just to make sure that we partner with them, and then they assist us, to put everything together for us to grow. So government is really now coming on board to come with that, because the city of Joburg has been coming on board. I presented at the city of Joburg and all of that, and then yeah, so that is coming in. It's coming in.
Theo, I think that's a wonderful way that Daniel has walked because, to get traction first, it sounds like our story. even though we
Mm.
knocked at government's door of
Yeah, it
30 years
yeah,
ago, 40 years ago.
it is so, and that is so true. We actually knocked on that door in nine. No, well, that was in 2001 when Carter Asma was Minister of Education. But so goodness, that's 25 years ago. But
Mm.
that's quite commendable, Daniel. I think that you, as you say, building the track, putting the locomotives on, and driving and making sure that you get traction, as you call it, and then um, reach out. So I had a question about the market. Um, so no, Daniel's just dropped. It'll come back just now, because the notion, Terry, that there, I suppose, is a conclusion that you and I would draw based on what we know, is that it does surprise us that that Daniel says, no, this is not something that we have always eaten. This is not
I
something that's
find it
always been
almost
part of
like
our cuisine, right?
a shocker. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's quite a shocker because there's generally resistance within rural cultures. It's like what is the what in the world is this?
yeah,
But to see it gaining traction like that, and I would want to commend him for having great restraint and not just going after the handouts.
yeah.
And
That in
you know,
itself, you're absolutely right. Is quite
yeah,
commendable. You're right,
yeah.
but I think that the same. There are these high-end products in South Africa that's exported, where the export market is the primary market
Mm,
for the growing of the produce. If you look at its nutritional value, these high-end products, strawberries to a lesser extent, but blueberries, for instance. I
mm.
mean, um, we, I think most of South Africans do not have that as part of their normal diet,
That's true.
right?
That
And
is
it is considered to be a high-end product, and it costs quite a lot of money. Um, so it would be so if we educate people, we're talking about how differently they can eat, and if they modify their behavior around what it is that they would consume, um, they 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 because of that becomes a market, so to speak, and you don't want to. Um, People are not markets, so there's a little bit of an aversion in my soul about that. But let me rather put it this way: it will naturally happen. The more Daniel works in this
Yes, I'm
space,
back.
good.
okay. Great.
I'm just saying, Daniel. I think the more you work in this space, the higher the potential will be for your
There's
contrib.
always challenges, with
Yes,
so, can you hear me?
yes, we can hear you clearly.
Can you?
Yeah,
We can hear you.
Can you hear me, guys?
Yes.
yes,
Yes. Yes. We can hear.
Oh, okay. Oh, I forgot that I had my yes. Yeah, yeah, entrepreneurship. There's a lot of pain points. There's
yes,
so much pain
yeah.
that we go through and challenges, and then we always come up with solutions and whatever. So even in this project itself, there's quite a lot of pain points that I think we
Mm.
will discuss on the next session,
Yeah, we will
and
definitely
also how
do that.
we've eased those pains and everything.
Oh, that'll be wonderful.
Mm.
Discuss it in
Yes,
another
yeah,
session. Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
yes,
Yep.
Yeah, and I think
sure.
no, I just wanted to say, Daniel, I
Hmm.
think what you are doing also, if we talk about educating people to consume products that traditionally have not been part of the national cuisine, if you for most people, then because of its high nutritional value, if the product's got a high nutritional value, you are in fact an agent of shifts and change in the space of elevating the health quality of people. And so,
Yes.
um, Terry, we should really speak to our good friend Jabun Kayana
Mm.
from is it,
KZN.
KZN, epidemiologist. That's really, really He's got a great understanding of the combination of the health needs and what we eat, of course. So, but thank you so very much, Daniel. We are back next week, and if we need to do a third week with you, we will do it mushroomy. Um,
Okay, great. Yeah.
so, but thank you so very, very much. Terry, thank you so much for joining us
You're
as well.
welcome. You're welcome. Thank you, Daniel. It was good meeting
Um,
you and looking forward
Thanks,
to the next
Terry.
couple
And
of
yeah,
sessions.
yeah, you
You're
take
welcome.
care, Daniel. All of the
same here.
best. And
Yes.
for those
Y-
of you who joined us this
Okay.
evening, we're really, really thankful that you took time and spend this time with us. We really, really appreciate that. This broadcast, of
Thank
course,
you.
will live live
Thank you.
on these platforms where it's broadcasted. Daniel, thank you so very much. And thank you for the tenacity that you applied in staying in touch throughout, despite the fact that the line drops so
Yes.
now and then. Good work, sir. Brilliant.
Mm,
Well done.
mm.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you,
So
you.
Daniel.
great.
Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Good night,
Okay,
everybody.
Thank
Theo.
you,
All of the
Terry.
Okay.
best.
Thank you, Theo.
Sure.
You take
Bye
care.
bye.
We'll speak again.
Bye.
Bye bye
Thank
for
you.
now.
Sure.
Good night,
Bye
everybody.
bye. Good
Okay.
night.
Bye. Check. Bye.
You know somebody told me love is all in the mind. So don't ever waste your precious life and time. You're a special lady, so maybe you are the one. Thank God above. Should this be love, sweet love? I found what I'm looking for. Being without you, baby. I found what I'm looking for. Being without. I've been so undecided, divided. I couldn't make up my mind. Cause I'm a victim of sweet love done bad. But how come I'm excited, delighted? Boy, I'm in love. Never knew to love could be quite like this. Oh no, I found what I'm looking for. Being without you. I found what I'm looking for. Give me some horn.
Thank you so very, very much for spending your time with us this evening on this broadcast every single Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central European Time. That's 8 p.m. South African time. That's until the end of March when the clocks gets changed. The music that we enjoy on this program is provided by Andre DeLang. And on the screen you can see the origin of this particular piece of music on an album called Homecoming. We're very, very thankful for Andre for his commitment to share his expertise and this heart for music and the ideas that he stands for in this particular space. We'll see you back next Wednesday. It'll be the same time, 7 p.m. Central European Time, 8 p.m. South African Time. Thank you for spending your time with us. Good night, everybody.
Found what I'm looking for.